another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Here at A Seat at the Table, we thrive off of bringing our viewers individuals that are decision makers or those with connections to those decision makers so that we can ensure our community needs are met with viable resources. We are not limited to just Pennsylvania. We're not limited to just um, the East Coast or Northeastern Seaboard. But what we do is we go out and we find individuals that we believe will be impactful with their words, with their encouragement, with their experiences to our viewers. Um, it is often a pleasure to have the opportunity to have one of our own from the city of Harrisburg come on to this show in order to, number one, update you on what he or she has been doing uh, since leaving Harrisburg, but never leaving in deeds and actions in terms of commitment to the city and growing, but always never forgetting to come back home, even if it's through StreamYard or video chat, whatever we may need to do to make sure we're connected. Um, this evening, we have the distinct pleasure and honor of bringing on Dr. Shawn Rux, who is, of course, one of Harrisburg's own 1993 graduate,
Yes.
matriculated on through Delaware State, and just continue to grow and to thrive, but always remain committed to his core values of service to the community, to community, and of course to the greater good via public service. So, without any further ado, Dr. Shawn Rux, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yes,
Great,
sir.
great to be back home.
Here you go. So we can
Yes.
do it this way, virtually, so we can have you on more times than not.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And so, in full candor and everything, I've been in touch with this gentleman for years, trying to figure a way to try to get him back as superintendent of our school district.
Hmm.
But his commitment, his body of work, has landed him in very prestigious positions in the state of New York, in New York City, more specifically. And his legacy of service to young people in particular and to communities in needs is beyond reproach. So I wanted to make sure that individuals that may have just moved to Harrisburg and
Hmm.
may not have had the opportunity to know you while you were here, obviously, and or only heard about you from a distance, use this opportunity to make sure they can get up close and personal with you in terms of your level of commitment, your level of expertise and experience that you bring to any table in which you sit. So, without any further ado, just thank you for joining us. And as I said, we'll have an organic conversation. If there's
I'll-
anything you want
I'll-
to start off with, anything you're involved with currently.
Look,
Um,
I'll say this: it's as I said in the opening, man. It's a pleasure to be back home. Even in New York City, I always still feel so connected to Harrisburg. Born and raised. Once you got those Harrisburg roots in you, you don't deviate far from them. You can move on, right? But we're adaptive and we make our mark everywhere we go. And I got to thank the city of Harrisburg for that. It wasn't always easy growing up. We know that we've seen some things. We've all seen some things over the course of our lives. However, it was people who poured into me. People who poured into all of us, the Des Manguses, like that, who kept us out of trouble, kept us focused, and our parents, extended family, the Lee family, my family. So it's because of people pouring into me that I've been able to do some wonderful things in education, and that work doesn't stop. That work continues, and always looking for a way to bridge. Definitely close that bridge more between Harrisburg and New York, and I'm certain that there's going to be some opportunities for us to do that.
Definitely. Ho- Hopefully, this is just the beginning of it. We'll
Mhm.
maintain our open line of communications more publicly now, as opposed
Yes.
to inboxing and texts and things like that. So, looking forward to having some very robust opportunities for various individuals. There'll be an event coming up in September,
Hmm.
September 8th, which we're going to do around the state of Black Pennsylvania. That's
Hmm.
head up. So if you can mark your calendar for September 8th, if you're available, course, that'll be a 9 to 3. If I'm just coming off the cuff right now, it's just coming to mind. So that's September 8th. There'll be an educational panel that I would love to have you a part of.
Let's
It's
do it.
very
Let's do it.
definitely. So,
If I got to move some things around and make it happen, then let's do it.
all right, appreciate that. So let's get into not only leadership. So a lot of people are leaders, but you don't. You were specific in terms of when you talk about leadership, in terms of your not only your degrees but your commitment to community, kids, family. The term transformational leadership, that is very distinctive. What does that not only mean to you, but why have you embodied that term in terms of explaining leadership or exhibiting your leadership as opposed to just leadership?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I do believe that there are two types of people. There's leaders and there's followers, and we absolutely need both of them. There's no denying that. We need leaders and we need followers. But I do believe that everyone has leadership potential. However, what separates leadership, in my opinion, is you can have leaders, but then you have effective leadership, because not all leadership is effective. And in order for leadership to be effective, like that's what I believe around transformational leadership. Like transformational leadership is the ability to not only lead, but to bring people along on that mission, along that journey with you, and have people really buy into whatever that vision or mission is of the work. Like transformational leaders have people who roll up their sleeves and do the hard work in spite of how difficult that work is. Like transformational leader is when change really happens. And you can have a leader sitting in and occupying a position of leadership, but that doesn't really define the character of that leader. And as far as I'm concerned, what identifies the character of leadership is how you operate in that role of leadership. And as far as I'm concerned, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to make waves, you got to be a transformational leader. And that comes with doing several things. You got to do the work. You can't just say you do this, you do this, you do this, you that. You have to lead by example. You got to do all the work from mopping floors to making those difficult decisions, like in everything in between. And then in addition, have the ability to have people buy into your mission, buy into your vision, and believe in what you say. And that comes with believing in people. Like I believe that everyone has a high level of expertise. You just have to tap into it. There can be an employee who is performing so poorly under someone's leadership, but then under a different person's leadership, that person is a phenomenal employee. It's about identifying the strengths that are in others, but also identifying areas of weakness, and not just identifying those areas of weakness, but then putting a plan in place to improve upon those areas of weakness. Effective leaders, transformational leaders, make people better. Like that's what it's about. And if you're in the position to make people better, then the output is going to be better. And we can talk about transformational leadership all day. I had a big chunk of that in my dissertation as well. But I pride myself on being a transformational leader. And part of my role as an educational leader is to continue to build transformational leaders along that journey.
So, in building those transformational leaders, the one thing that stuck out to me is with anything is that buy-in piece.
Yeah.
Whether it's your children, buying into bedtime when they're young. I'm sure they don't have a choice now, but no matter what the case may be, what is that level of perseverance? Where do you go and get that stick-to-itiveness when it's an adult at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a young brother, coming in with a doctorate or working while obtaining your doctorate. You've had individuals that were stuck in their ways, I'm certain.
Absolutely.
You weren't from New York.
Mhm.
You weren't, so you were fighting, or I'm sure even if it wasn't um, an announced opposition, there was some pushback, I'm certain.
Absolutely.
What did you do? And how did you formulate alliances so that it wasn't a bullying thing, but it was a co-opetition thing where you got the buy-in because eventually everybody said this is good for the overall character, integrity, and culture, educational culture of the school. How did you get
That's
to
a great question, phenomenal question. And I got to tell you, listening to the question made me think back to my initial years as a teacher in New York City, which was different, coming from small city, yeah, graduating, but even at a small HBCU and then going to this humongous city, right? And teaching in probably one of the worst performing schools in not just New York City, but the entire country. My first day as a teacher, we didn't have furniture in my school. There wasn't furniture in my classroom. And to the point where I went to the main office and I was like, to the principal at that time, I said, I think you sent me to the wrong room. He said, no, you're in the right room. Go back up there, get ready. I'm like, wait, kids are coming here in an hour. I don't have books. I don't have furniture. I don't have nothing at all. My kids sat on folding tables and folding chairs for the first 2 weeks of school as a brand new teacher. And then the next week was 9/11. So this was all my beginning career as a teacher. And in addition to dealing with that, when we grew up, I always felt like blacks and Hispanics, and we may be touching a nerve somewhere, but I believe in full transparency.
Hey.
When we grew up, I felt like blacks and Hispanics, we were all connected. We had the same struggles. We were all one. When I got to New York in the South Bronx, that was not the case. It was not and it was like, it was very eye-opening for me that it was like, no, you stay over there because you're not one of us. And in the South Bronx was a large Hispanic population. So there was that resistance, even as a teacher. But that stick with itness comes from believing in myself. I believe in myself. And I'm speaking to people right now. Like, you have to believe that you're equipped to do the work, because nothing's going to happen if you don't believe in yourself. To the point where, like, in all seriousness, and I tell people this all the time, I bought this mirror and I'm pointing to it. I'm pointing to it right now. There's a mirror standing right over here. It's about a 7-foot mirror. I stop in front of that mirror 3 to 4 times a week, not just to check my swag to make sure I'm on point, but I look into that mirror and I talk to that mirror like, yo, this even before I was a doctor. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be an author. You are awesome. You are a change maker. You make a difference. When you walk into a room, people listen. Like, I believe in that self-talk and speaking things into existence. So it was like, yeah, it was hard, but I had to believe in myself. And then it's okay, here's this large population of children who need something that they're not getting. And we can get into all the equities, the inequities that exist that are still plaguing our communities. But that was so prevalent. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let my work speak for itself. You can walk softly and carry a big stick. Let the work speak for myself. Build relationships with kids, build relationship after relationship to where now it's oh, well, maybe he's not so bad. We can let him in. Let's let him be the dean of the school since he has this great rapport with kids. Oh, wow, we're really making some changes in the school. Let's give him a shot at assistant principal. And even then, they're still, well, we'll make him an assistant principal, but I don't want him to be the principal.
Right.
So then there's that resistance. Nah, he's too young. Nah, he thinks he's the sugar honey iced tea. So it's all that resistance. And along the way, it's let the work speak for itself. Let the work speak for itself.
You nailed something which I fully believe in. Um, I know this might come as a shock to you, but I really everybody doesn't love me.
Mm.
That I come in contact with. I know you're shocked, so tie it back up and relax. But it affects me immensely.
Mm.
No, in all seriousness, I figured instead of as a colleague when I was in the school setting, there was going to be a natural level of professional decorum and respect.
Right.
But in order to get to where you hope to go to make maximum impact, you had to build that rapport with the kids in the community. Kids and community, kids and community, kids and community. And no matter what goes down, as long as you have a connection with the kids and community, you haven't caused any harm to the kids and community, no matter how anyone's personal feelings are about you, especially as a black man going into the field of education,
Mm.
uh, this day and age, or I'll say, well, I'm a little more experienced than you. we'll say in age wise. So going into that setting, we were looked at almost as becoming unicorns, becoming extinct,
Mhm.
and it's continuing to trend that way, unfortunately. So we got to do something about that. That's a whole nother conversation.
Mhm.
But when they started to see that we didn't fall for the setup, I don't know how it was for you, but when I walked in, immediately it was he could be security. Even though I was a classroom, 3 degrees and everything else, it was we're gonna put him in the toughest and this, that, and the other. I didn't mind it, but that's not what you're gonna utilize me for. What we did was at that point, we were able, I'm saying we, but I'm sure you as well. I was
Yes.
able to build rapport and relationships with kids that have been given up on, kids that haven't been spoken to appropriately. I'm sorry, spoken with. They've been spoken to, but not spoken with.
Right.
From there, they go home and they tell their parents. So, how did the parents? I'm sure you didn't just befriend and going out into that community that was, between, the divide that was there, that cultural and heritage divide that is very real
Yeah.
between, those that you just named. How did those kids help you, based on the rapport you were building with them, establish your professional credentials in
Mm.
outside of school?
Yeah, you said several powerful things, and it's definitely it's biases that we can definitely speak to, but the black male in education is always first looked at as the disciplinarian. And one thing I tell young black educators as often as I can, don't get pigeonholed or stuck in that box. Now you can be a great disciplinarian, but that doesn't have to be where your level of expertise ends at. And they tried to put me in that same bucket, but I was like, no, I want to learn. I want to run the professional development. I want to supervise it goes back to you got to be confident in yourself enough. No, I'm not going to be held to this. No, I want to supervise math. I want to supervise ELA. I want to lead the ELA team, the English Language Arts department. So it was no, I can do curriculum just as good, if not better, than disciplinary measures. And then it's just making sure that you provide yourself the supports to grow. Because if no one's going to do it for you. Oh no, go to that PBIS training. Go to that training on how to de-escalate situations. Like they'll send you to that training, but they won't send you to curriculum and content stuff, which is just some more implicit bias that we can get into. With the children, you got to show up for them. And those relationships are so important. And for me, it was just get to know them. Like I was the dude who, after work, I'm walking to the projects with the kids. What do you mean you going? What do you mean you going over there? Well, that's where Johnny lives, so that's where we going. Like I haven't seen Johnny in a couple of days. We got to go over there. Let's go talk. Let's go knock on the door. Let's go talk to the parents. So it's like one just being seen. And the reality is too that when you have men in education or minorities, or even in your lowest performing schools in the most challenging neighborhoods, the turnover rate is so prevalent. It's so high. It's ongoing that the children and families build up this resistance. They don't want to connect with you initially because they're thinking, well, you're gone. You're gone tomorrow. True story. When I became a principal, and I'll try to get through this piece as fast as I can.
We got time.
All right. Well, people thought they thought I was crazy for taking over the school I did. Like it wasn't a school. It was, you take lean on me and multiply that by like 10. Like that's the building I inherited. However, what was interesting, I'm building these relationships. I'm building morale, changing the culture of the building, making improvement. But it was so interesting. By about February of my first year as a principal, my first year, 8th graders kept coming to me. So, Mr. Rux, so who's going to be the principal next year? And I'm thinking they know something I don't know. I'm like, I'm going to be the principal. And but it kept happening. So then March, Mr. Rux, who's going to be the principal next year? To the point where by the time May came around, I called 10 8th graders into my school. Is somebody telling y'all something that they're not telling me? Like, why do y'all keep asking me who the principal's going to be next year? Because we know it's going to be a new principal next year. We had this person in 6th grade. We had this person in 7th grade. We got you in 8th grade. So obviously somebody else is going to be there next year. So it's like they don't expect you to stay around. And because of that, I don't want to become that connected with you knowing that you're going to leave. So it's once children know that you're going to stick around, you're going to make a difference, and then their parents are going to open up too. The parents are going to be on your side. And granted, there's still resistance along the way, but I got kids from my first year of teaching who are still reaching out, still reaching out. Kid, like it just never ends. Just got a Facebook message earlier today from one of my former students, so happy that she's going to college in the fall. Like, and think about it. And to be totally honest with you, as I'm sitting there thinking right now, I'm trying to remember a principal I had growing up. Like I remember Mr. Smith. I can't think of another principal, and to have like hundreds of kids who reach out to me all the time, not as their teacher, but as their principal. Like it's refreshing to know that, all right, you are making a difference. Like the work matters. Like it's those conversations, those text messages, Instagram, Facebook messages that remind us that, yo, you really are making an impact on these kids' lives and changing the trajectory of their lives. And it's so important. And even research shows us that if a student has a Black male teacher, and not even just Black boys, like the crazy part is if I'm a white kid, an Hispanic kid, any kid, Asian, if I have a Black male teacher over the course of my educational career, I'm 30%, just one, I'm 30% more likely to graduate high school. Imagine if you had 2, 3, 4. Like our swag is unmatchable. Like our swag and what we provide, what we do, how people want to emulate and watch us. And like I tell people, yo, Jay-Z can be your role model. Like I love Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Drake, they can be your role model. Watch me. Watch what I'm doing.
That's right.
Watch me. Like I'll show you what to do. I'll show you what not to do. Like watch you. Like, yo, watch you. Watch Mr. Singleton. You got people right there in Harrisburg that people can emulate and be better than.
There you go. And that's what I always say. We already did it. So don't be like us, be better than us. And that's what I would always say to my kids, my biological kids, personal kids, as well as those that adopted through education. So on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to touch on two Americas, because you were getting ready to lead into the topic in terms of how curriculum played an important role in your progression in terms of leadership, transformational leadership, and how that is oftentimes overlooked, or we're overlooked oftentimes when it comes to developing, enhancing, and making curriculum relevant for our young people so that they want to come to school. So we don't have to worry about those disciplinary issues, we'll say. So again, if you're tuned in today, you are hearing from the one and only Dr. Shawn Rux, Harrisburg's own. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial. Hello, 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 and welcome back. Again, we are joined by Harrisburg's own Dr. Shawn Rux. Of course, we were laying the foundation, talking about rapport building with not only our young people that are in the schools, but also the community. That important piece and how that played a role in your progression to assistant principal, then principal. It's just, I'm proud. I'm just that's what I say. I mean, I'm definitely proud for to be able to reach out to you. Not that you're too big or anything like that, but to be able to highlight you. We wanted to make sure when we put this podcast together that it was an opportunity for us to highlight the people that we know are making the difference, not the people that people are telling us are making the difference. And with that, we believe we are unmatched, and we look forward to continuing to grow by having people like yourselves that are committed, again, to our kids and our community in particular, but committed to doing the hard work, the heavy lifting, the consistency, as everybody's nailing down, as you keep highlighting, the level of consistency is definitely necessary in order to persevere to the levels where you've grown to, but also where you're able to emulate for others, where they need to not only get to but surpass. And so that we're going to change a little bit, because you really go in in the first segment, and he's like, well, I'm not going to. But I said, no, it's wide open. And in fact, we're going to take this whole second segment,
All right.
living in two Americas.
Hmm.
We have that topic as a theme ever since the January 6th riots at the Capitol. And so, living in two Americas, what does that title mean to you? If you came in, just what does that mean when you first hear it? Living in two Americas.
Well, it's accurate. I mean, it's an accurate summary of our complete existence. And if we get a little granular, there are two educational systems. We have an educational system for wealthy people who have high quality teachers at their disposal for every content area and have uh, boosters and PTAs that pour in money into their schools and to provide them with a plethora of opportunities for success. Then we have another school system that is struggling to get teachers, has a high turnover rate of teachers, has minimal access to technology, access to trips even. So there's two educational systems. One for minority kids. Even just think about the New York City public educational system. There's 1.1 million children in that system, and over 75% of them are Black or Hispanic. Yet when you look at the high performing schools, when you look at the prestigious schools that families want their kids to get into, the majority of those students are white and Asian. So there's two educational systems. There's two healthcare systems. There's a healthcare system for families who can afford the best doctors, the best medicine. And then there's a healthcare system for somebody who will get the basic minimum of what they need. We also know that there's absolutely two police systems. There's a police system where white people can yell and argue with cops, and they leave their houses feeling very confident that they're going to get home at night. And then there's a police system where I gotta say my prayers whenever I walk out the door in hopes that I make it home at night. And not even, and this is even as a principal, as a deputy superintendent, as a doctor, I still have these situations that occur with police officers just because of the color of my skin. Two police officers. So there's absolutely two Americas. And it's unfortunate. We're at a space now where we're beginning to look through the magnifying lens and say, oh yeah, like more people are seeing these inequities that have been existing for hundreds, thousands of years if we really want to keep it 100. But we're still not doing enough about it. We talk so much about equity and access for all, but as far as I'm concerned, equity is like this boogeyman. Like we talk about it, but where does it actually exist? Until every single child in every school across the country can walk into any school building and receive the quality education they rightfully deserve, we're going to have two Americas. But our system is designed for that. We know the definition of system. A system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. And our system as a whole, the educational system as a whole, is getting the results that it's designed to get. It's designed to get a certain group of people to be the bosses, and it's designed to get a certain group of people to be the workers. But we got to do something about it. As far as I'm concerned, we got to put the whole entire educational system, the whole entire police system, we got to put it on the couch, give it all therapy, because it needs therapy. And until we're ready to look these inequities in the eye, until we're ready to look at them face to face, we're going to continue to have these problems, these issues. And no, they can't be solved overnight. However, there's definitely these two Americas. And the reality is there's a large population of people who are absolutely comfortable with it being two Americas.
And so one of the things that I firmly believe is, number one, we need to encourage, not only encourage, but create pipelines for there to be more culturally diverse professionals going into the teaching profession.
Yeah.
And I'm sincere when I say that. We're trying to continue to enhance our relationships here locally with the Morgan States of the world, as well as Lincoln, Cheney, so that we can, anybody who's willing to entertain the thought of coming and teaching, not only in Harrisburg High, but in Harrisburg, Stilton, Susquehanna, Central Dauphin, we are trying to flood through this platform here. We're trying to flood the educational system with quality, qualified Black educators, in
We
particular Black
can't wait.
educators.
We can't wait. It's like here's the thing.
Yeah.
Kids don't think it's cool to teach.
Right.
Like there's always been that stigma that teaching and learning is not cool. Think about the kids who know an answer in the classroom but don't answer because they think they're gonna get clowned for being a man. Look, my motto in my school was swagger, like students who achieve good grades earn respect. No, the cool kids are the one getting it in, getting the work done. We got to make education look cool. And there are things that we can do. I was actually on an international educational campaign to recruit minorities into the teaching field, more specifically Black males. And what did they do? They used my face. They used my face. And that's, like, it sounds so simple, but those are things that we can do in Harrisburg. Granted, I know there's male teachers. It's not a lot, but there's male teachers. Use one of their faces. Get them up there. Like have a recruitment campaign to attract people into the field of education. And not just that. Grant, I love those opportunities that exist at Morgan State, Cheney. I'm actually sitting on a panel also at Delaware State to begin that same work. But there are opportunities where we can begin to reach out to kids as high school, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, those who may be interested, maybe slightly interested. One, continue to show them that the field of education is cool, but then give them an opportunity to earn college credits while still in high school. Like, to me, that's some real incentive.
Yeah.
That's some real incentive right there. And those are things we can absolutely do.
So when we how do you combat, and I'm saying combat specifically, how do you combat the colleagues who, of course, I don't personally, and I'm sure you don't, expect them to see through the exact same lens as you, but when there's this lack of awareness and you're both in front of the same students, and oftentimes now that you're in administration, some of these individuals are around students more than you are, and you know their ideology is not yours, or that of our culture or heritage. How do you supplement your absence, knowing what the students need, with the professionals, quote unquote, that are in front of them, without having those students think school is not for them, or it's not cool, or this individual, I'm just going to do what I need to do to get by today and not really maximize my potential? How do you, as an administrator, combat those two in school Americas, if you will?
And that's real. That's so real. Well, one, there's this thing called difficult conversations, and we can't be afraid to have them. Like, if we talk about that leadership and we talk about that transformational leadership piece, sometimes you got to have that ugly conversation. And it's not about being disrespectful, but I always say that at the other end of every conversation, at the other end of every decision that is made, there's a kid. There's a kid's education at the other end of that. And we're either going to help to propel them to the next level, or we're going to fail them. And we got to be willing to have those difficult conversations. There's actually a book that I always make anyone who I'm training or supporting and coaching to be a leader, I have them read this book, Difficult Conversations, by Douglas Stone and Bruce Patton. It's a foundation to minimize the discomfort that comes along with having difficult conversations. We know they're difficult. We know that some anxiety is going to come from it, but I always focus on the fact that if I refuse to have this conversation with you, kids are going to be negatively impacted. So I must, as a leader, as a transformational leader, be willing to have that conversation with you. And one or two things are going to happen after we have that conversation. You're going to make some shifts in your practice or not. And if you don't make shifts in your practice, then guess what? We're going to have another difficult conversation. And either one or two things is going to happen.
You never learn that practice.
So it's there are times when And sometimes it's not as immediate as we want, but we can't have certain people in front of our kids.
Yeah.
You just can't. And when we turn a blind eye to people doing harm to our kids, then we're just blowing smoke. We're not really doing the educational system any justice. So we got to hold people accountable, have difficult conversations, and do whatever we can in our power to ensure that we're providing the quality education our kids rightfully deserve. Like when I initially took over, not even just as a principal, even when I think back to being a teacher, dean, assistant principal, there were times when I would literally go up to a teacher, I need you to leave this classroom. Like, I need you to leave the classroom now. Not having anybody else to come in the classroom, but you in this classroom right now is a detriment to my children. So I'm going to come in the classroom because I know I'm going to pour into them. I know I'm going to pour into them. So it may require me writing some additional lesson plans in addition to holding a staff meeting. But we got to be willing to do the hard work. And then in the interim, once again, as I mentioned before, modeling what we want. Like, I believe in the importance of not micromanaging. So in transformational leadership, it's about creating this team of experts who are all on the same page. So I would create a hiring committee. Like, we all had the same benchmark of what we wanted, who we wanted to hire, to where I didn't even have to be in the interview process after a while because my team knew exactly what we were looking for. And then it's once we hire people and bring them into that setting, that means we believe in them to a point where we're going to support them by any means necessary. So you got to support the people that are in there, and it takes work, a whole lot of work.
Right. Valid question. How do you combat those who look like you, but don't have the children and the community's best interests at heart? They appear to have titles and paychecks ahead of the mission. How do we combat that?
It's a real issue, and I hate to say it, but some of the most painful work for me as an educator is having to let people go who look like me and who but just don't want to do the work, or are stuck in this mental model that people who look like us aren't destined for greatness or destined for high levels of success. And it's sad because they've been brainwashed to believe that they can't reach their maximum level of potential based on the beliefs and thoughts of somebody else. Now, sometimes people get in leadership positions still and have that mentality. And it's the work is ongoing, but I'll say this, we talked about it in the first segment, it's that consistency. Like, just, we can never turn a blind eye to what's right or what's wrong. And there's a respectful way to do it. There's a respectful way to make noise, and then there's a disrespectful way to make noise. I believe in making noise, but you got to do it respectfully. And it has to be evidence-based. Like, I can speak to you for hours upon hours about what my opinion is, but that doesn't mean anything. But if I really start dropping facts regarding an individual's practice, evidence of practice that's a detriment to children, that's a detriment to the educational system, now we can move that needle, because you can't ignore evidence. We can act like we can ignore it, but you really can't ignore evidence. We can ignore opinion because everyone's entitled to one. But if there's evidence and facts that are leaning towards a detriment to kids, hurting kids, then we got to move on that. And for those who aren't willing to move on that, shame on you.
I agree. So we were talking about the disciplinary role earlier. There's two things I wanted to touch on, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. My belief is the best disciplinary practice in terms of controlling classroom environment, so forth and so on, to have as least amount of interruptions as possible, if possible, is to have a solid lesson plan that students are actively engaged with, limited transition times or meaningful transition times. What say you?
One, and it goes back to the old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And one thing about school-age children, they got a nose for it. They know if you're ready or not. And the truth be told, kids want structure. They want the plan. They want you to know what you're doing. But as kids, they're kids. So once they sniff it out that you're not ready, you will get eaten alive. And you always have to over plan. You can't, come on. Granted, and I'm not saying we had the most wonderful teachers. And even when I think back to how I began as a teacher, I wish I knew now what I knew then starting out. But we can't stand in front of a kid's holding a piece of chalk or standing in front of a smart board and think that we're going to connect with every kid. Kids are going to be looking for the loophole, and they'll find it if you let them. But I believe in structure, and not just structure, but an abundance of structure. So, and structure includes that plan, a well thought out plan, aligned to standards, and not just aligned to standards, but it has to be culturally relevant. If I'm a teacher in a class with 30 kids who look like me, I don't want to hear about Little House on the Prairie. I don't want to hear about that because that's not my reality. So I'm zoning out, and now I'm trying to get Keisha's phone number. And then Derek's giving me the snide eye because he likes Keisha too. So now we about to beef because you talking about Little House on the Prairie that has nothing to do with me. So provide me with culturally relevant content that has to do with me. And there's not, and granted, that goes back to the curriculum, which was perfectly designed to not be about us. It wasn't supposed to be about us because you weren't supposed to be in school. We weren't supposed to be in school learning and excelling, but we are, and we're here. And the curriculum needs to reflect that. And the teacher needs to know that. And look, and I'm not saying teachers have to be rocket scientists, but teaching is hard. Like I want to kick people in the throat when I hear people say, well, I couldn't be this, so I'm going to be a teacher. What?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
What?
yeah.
Not everybody. Well, so let me back up. And I will say this. We are all teachers. We are all teachers because people are listening to what we say. They're watching what we do. So we're all teaching something to someone. So I believe that we're all teachers in one way, shape, or another. But in reference to being a career educator, don't just think that everybody can be a career educator because that's not the case. It takes a lot of work, a lot of relationship building, and you got to know that what Karl Singleton needs help with is going to be different than what Shawn Rux needs help with. So provide me with some work that's on my level, which will keep me more engaged. So if it's related, if it's relevant to my life, my community, my situation, on my level, to help push me, help me grow, then you're going to have more engagement. And not only that, I have to do the work. Oftentimes we go into classrooms, who's doing all the talking? The teacher's doing all the talking. The teacher's doing this, the teacher's doing that. No, the kids have to do the work. The children have to be involved in the work. Children can lead the work. If we let them, they will lead the work. We just have to put the systems and the structures in place and have a well thought out plan in order to do that.
So that high level issue that's been blowing everybody's mind, i.e., critical race theory. Give me a perspective on that. First of all, we know it was initially. First of all, it's been hijacked, as we know, in terms of the narrative being hijacked. Second of all, it was supposed to be at post-secondary education level, never really at the high school level. But now that it's here and we're talking about it, now the high schoolers and everybody's interested. What are some of the feedback you're getting or pushback, if you will, from colleagues, parents, and or students for that matter?
Well, one of the things that's most telling for me right now is how there's still, once again, and it just goes back to this idea of two Americas. There's a portion of people who are so uncomfortable with this, just uncomfortable. And 2021, and we're still in this place where people are uncomfortable with talking about reality, talking about facts. But like I said before, we can talk about opinion, but when you really start to lay down the facts and the evidence, like even with Nicole Hannah-Jones with the 1619 Project, like people are uncomfortable, but can you really run from the fact that these events really happened in history? And But I get it though. Like I get it. No one wants their dirty laundry to be on display for everybody to see. But it comes a time when we can't run from it. Like that's just what it is. Racism exists. Racism exists, whether we want to believe it or not, or cover our eyes with the hand over the face emoji. Racism is here. There are people who do not like certain people because of the color of their skin, and social media has put a magnifying glass to it. That's what social media has done. It exists. It's here. It's been here. It's not going anywhere. We can just see it. We just can see it every day, and it happens from the time our kids are born. Think about it. And it hurts my heart, actually brings tears to my eyes. You can take 20 random kids right now, and I say 5-year-olds. You grab 20 5-year-olds right now, black. Grab 20 black 5-year-olds. Take 10 boys, 10 girls, or let's just say all girls if we're going to talk about dolls. And you show them a white doll baby, you show them a black doll baby. You ask them which one would they rather play with. And it's so mind-blowing when you see the number of children who will prefer to play with that white doll baby. And you ask them why. She's prettier. She looks better than me. But that's our system. Our system being perfectly designed for children to see that. That's what media is showing us. That's what social media shows us. But that's why it's like we gotta pour into our kids and let them know how beautiful they are, how amazing they are, how awesome they are. Like over pour into them, because that belief in self is not going to happen for everybody, not unless they hear it all the time. Because the media is doing its job to let us know that we're not all that, and it'll continue to work overtime to send that message. But people who are uncomfortable with the idea of racism in America, get over it.
Yeah.
Like, get over it. It exists. It's here. It's here. And I'm gonna go back. Like, as long as we have 2 justice systems, 2 healthcare systems, 2 educational systems, we got to keep fighting that fight until we have one. Until we have, like, it's so freaking ironic that our country is called the United States of America. The United States of America.
Yeah. But we all know that, I mean, something that's said that oftentimes doesn't correspond with deeds and actions is always a farce. So the democracy that we talk about, and then we pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, and all. So we can, all that. We won't even go into the history on that level. We
need another couple hours for that one.
That means you'll come back. That's what that means. That means you'll come back. Talk about before we get out of here though. Talk about the importance of what we talked about right now. From starting off, remaining committed, understanding stick-to-itiveness and perseverance, understanding what transformational leadership looks like, getting buy-in, all these things. Talk about the importance that HBCUs, in particular for you, Delaware State, played in your embodiment of understanding what it means to be reflective of leadership, Black leadership, the history of positive Black leadership, the importance of expectations, positive expectations of leadership. Talk about the importance of HBCU, especially in such a time as these.
Growing up in Harrisburg, the majority of students who attended our schools look like us, Black and Hispanic kids. But in all transparency, as much as I loved Harrisburg High School, they didn't provide me with the quality education I rightfully deserved. And I'm just going to keep 100. I graduated high school with honors. Was lucky enough to go on to college. But you know what? Nobody in high school was talking to me about college. Nobody in high school was talking to me about financial aid. Nobody was sitting down with me saying, look, these are some things you should be considering in selecting which school you go to. Nobody. Like, and yeah, I made it. And and thank God that so many of us are making it, and kids are going off to college and being successful. But how many more of us could have made it? How much more could I have been or be able to do for the world if people were really doing right by me and doing right by so many other kids in school? So granted, although everybody looked like me in high school, I didn't get that sense of I'm destined to succeed. Granted, we had some mentors and people who loved us and looked after us, but I didn't see this world of possibilities back then. And I went off to a junior college, played baseball, had some great experiences, and then ended up, and I really think it's divine intervention. I applied to 2 colleges. I applied to Hagerstown Junior College, got accepted, went there and played baseball, and then I applied to Delaware State University. Only 2 colleges I applied to back then. When I went to Delaware State University and saw thousands of people who looked like me, who were really about trying to be the best version of themselves. You know, Leland Nelson, who was a couple years older than me, I think he graduated in 97 or 96. But to see people I knew there handling their business and doing so well was so motivating for me. And it just became this family of people who were going to push each other to be the best versions of themselves. When I left Delaware State University, I felt equipped to make better decisions for my life. Like I'm a avid believer in the HBCU experience, and there is no experience like it. And I'm not downgrading what can happen at any PWI or any other.
Clarify it. We talking pro-black. It's legit.
But to the point where there's families who will say, well, use an HBCU as your second or third choice. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, HBCU is not a secondary or tertiary option. An HBCU is a primary option. Like, and I tell people, you wanna be a pilot, or if you're interested in flying planes, get to Delaware State University, where they have one of the best aviation programs in the country. You want to get into politics, going over to DC and hit up Howard University. Like you want to be a lawyer, go down to Morehouse. Like there's places that have top-notch educational programs for people who look like us. Now, granted, the entire world doesn't look like us, but to be around thousands of people, like-minded people with similar stories, similar backgrounds, it was game-changing for me. It was game-changing, like game-changing. To where now, like I owe my foundation to Harrisburg. I owe my readiness to the HBCU experience. And now as from that experience, now the CEO of Ruxway Incorporated. Like HBCU prepared me for that.
That's what's up. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll have our closeout segment on the other end of this commercial.
All right.
Live, you'll see it at the table, hosted by yours truly, with Harrisburg's own Dr. Shawn Rux. See you on the other side of this commercial. Okay, and we're back with Dr. Shawn Rux. We've touched on transformational leadership. We've talked about you being in the role of deputy superintendent, assistant principal, and of course, committed community leader. But we didn't touch on the fact that you put your name in the hat for New York City Council's 31st district.
Yes.
What was that experience like, and what does the future, because you're nailing it down, as we all know, regarding the educational piece. But the other side to that is not only the teachers and things, but to be policy leaders and advocates for our young people and communities. That takes the whole political side as well. And so you're committed over there as well, not only with regards to voting, but actively becoming engaged.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about why you thought that piece was necessary at this point in time in your life, and what that experience has been like, and what the future holds in regards to the political aspect of things.
Thank you for that great question. And I'll tell you this. During the course of the pandemic, these last, I guess, 17 months now have been like nothing else we've experienced in our lifetime. And my thought process shifted from this space of stop thinking about things you want to do and start doing the things you think about. So if I think about it, if I can see it in my mind, then I'm just going to do it. And to get real granular, in running for city council during my time as a deputy superintendent, during the pandemic when we were trying to figure out how we were going to bring kids back to school, in school versus remote school, and still trying to figure this thing out in New York City. And I'm not afraid to say it, I was getting marching orders that my daily job was to make sure by the end of the day, there was a body in front of children. And it just didn't sit right with me. It did not sit right with me that I'm a deputy superintendent. I'm responsible for supervising 35 school leaders, 30,000 kids across the district. And right now, my marching orders are to make sure that there is a body in front of kids. And thinking about the fact that I had children who are New York City public school children, I don't want just a body in front of them. And no disrespect to the DOE, I've learned so much over a 20-year career, but I had a problem with the fact that this wasn't uncomfortable for anybody. Like nobody else was feeling uncomfortable the way I was. That we just are charged with putting bodies. Don't care who the bodies are. Just make sure there's a body in front of kids. So now educators are really babysitters. There's always been that stigma. So now it's actually real. Educators are babysitters, get a body in front of kids. And it just didn't sit right with me. So it came to this place where this feeling in the pit of my gut is like, all right, Rux, you've been pouring into these kids for so long, going so hard, doing such great work. Now it's time to light the fire in these elected officials. Because I'm not a politician. I'm not. But I said, you know what? I can make some noise out here. And if God sees fit for me to get this position, then I can really make change on a policy level, because no one's ever going to receive another email if I'm in that position to put a body in front of kids. So I ran on an educational platform and I learned so much, though. Like it was a wonderful learning experience, was able to help so many families and communities in need, develop some amazing relationships, even with the current city council person in place, like have a great relationship with her, and looking forward to holding her accountable and other elected officials accountable, and keeping the fire lit under them to make the right choices for kids, the right choices for community. As far as the future, who knows what the future holds? I'll say this, I learned a whole lot. I learned that the politics is a different game. It's a different animal. However, I feel like I definitely got a master's degree, another master's degree while running that campaign. So I'm not saying that you may not see another Shawn Rux election, running for a position. But if it feels right, then I would absolutely do it. But as long as I can hold the people accountable for doing the right thing, then that's fine too. And that's something else that we got to teach our kids about. We don't teach our kids who our elected officials are. We don't teach our kids how important the positions are of local politics. Yeah, everybody shows up and votes for the president every 4 years in November, but it's our local elected officials that really make the difference in our community. And those are the people we need to be holding accountable for doing that great work.
So I'm going to have to give you an assignment, Dr. Rux.
All right.
That 7-foot mirror that's over there to your left, you need to walk over to that mirror and speak into that mirror that you're going to be the next council president out there. Part of your assignment is going to be just that.
All right.
Because I know that mirror's over there for a reason.
It is. It absolutely is.
But before we go, it would be robbery if I didn't shout out my dad, Mr. Bull, your uncle, who always calls himself my dad. Mr. James Bullock, of course.
James Bullock, Unc.
Yeah, and of course, definitely your dad. Having strong Black men outside of school. You mentioned Mr. Smith, and of course, Mr. Poteet was there, and Joe Brown was there. Mr. Jackson was there. In terms of, at least when I was there, I'm not sure if they were still there when you were there, but you have not had, but you still have your parents, and
Yeah.
particularly for this topic right now, your black father, and he's poured so much into the Harrisburg community.
Mm.
So it would have been unfitting for you not to be at least where you are and still growing. So what is it like when you hear, Chad and others ask, "How's your dad?"
Yeah, it's always love, man. And even when I talk to my boys and we kick it, it always comes up. Tough coach, man, but meant well. Like really, just wanted kids to do well. It was competitive, definitely. Was tough on me sometimes. Look, sometimes I didn't want to be my coach. Like, yeah, nah, like, go somewhere else. But it's all love. It's tough love, man. And for me, I just love the fact that was an opportunity for him to make a difference in the lives of others, in the lives of so many people, and who are grown now with families, and still remember some of those jewels that was poured into them back then. And I really believe that, like, if I reflect on it right now, that competitiveness, and that's one of the amazing things about Harrisburg, where you play sports, like you're gonna be on some sport team or something. So that opportunity to play sports and work together with other kids, and that competitive spirit that gets built, I took that into education. Like I took it into like I took that I will not lose mentality into education. I took it as a teacher, assistant principal, and deputy superintendent. Even though there are people who will say you're not going to win this, and still found the way to win. Like still found the way to win, and it's just amazing. And it's we talk about legacy, man. You just want the work to continue. And for me, yeah, not a baby anymore, but 46, 46, and still want to spend another 46 years doing whatever I can to make a difference in the lives of others. And for me, I love pouring into children, but then it gets to this space too where we got to pour into the young black men as well. I'm so sick of that mentality of the crabs in the barrel, man. Like we're conditioned to feel like we both can't win. We can both win. We can both win together. Imagine how much stronger we are together. I don't have to pull you down to try to take what you got. And you know what? It comes to my mind. One thing I always say, it's my favorite quote, and it's by James Keller. A candle loses nothing of its light by lighting another candle. Like when you take a candle and you use it to light another candle, that candle you started with doesn't lose any light. Like you don't lose anything when you use that candle, use your light to light another candle. You don't lose any wisdom when you share your wisdom with others. You don't lose any expertise when you share your expertise with others. You don't lose anything. You only gain more light. So I don't have to pull you down. I can light your candle. If I'm great at math, I can help you be great at math. If I'm a great orator, I can help you be a great orator. And then we can both be great orators and great math students together, because together we have more light. So I'm sick of that crabs in the barrel mentality. We can all win. It's enough. It's enough out here for all of us.
That's right. We actually, and I put you on the group. Part of what we're doing here is the Kings group, keeping inner city neighborhoods great and safe, that I sent the information out to, in
Mm-hmm.
which we are unapologetic about being black male, not
Mm-hmm.
only male, but black man led,
Yeah.
in terms of accomplishing goals and uplifting our community as a whole. If we're good enough to be highlighted when things are not going well, then we need to make sure we're highlighted when things are going well or on the verge of getting better because of us, not in spite of us.
Yeah.
Uh, with that being said, I'm always reminded when people bring up the crabs in the barrel syndrome. Uh, my fundamental question is this, and it goes political. We always talk about the crabs in the barrel as a whole until we've bought into this. Not you and I, but just in general,
Mm-hmm.
I bought into this. But the fundamental question I always like to highlight is, who bought the damn barrel to put the crabs in? I'm sure
Mm.
the crabs didn't buy the barrel themselves and jump in. So, two Americas once again. Um,
Indeed.
last shot. Well, before you go there, I can't let that segment go talking about your dad, because Chad always talks about the Royals without shouting out the Packers, man. You already know what's coming.
Hey,
You already
East
know
Shore Royals all day, man.
that.
East Shore Royals all day.
Yeah, he never comes on the mic.
Coach Holly, Coach Rux, East Shore Royals. Y'all never wanted that work. We used to come down to Sunshine Park.
Hey, listen, I guess that's like the Bishop McDevitt conversations. I guess y'all started winning after we left. You know, that's like the Royals and I won't even go on that. We were having such a beautiful conversation.
It's all love. Yeah. It's all love.
But we can all work together now. See,
Absolutely.
there we go. But no, I want to give you, first of all, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time out. And of course, as I said, September 8th, as well as the Kings meetings that we have, you're getting all that information. I want to make sure you stay involved with that. We can definitely utilize some of your leadership and your areas of expertise coming to the table. As you say, unified, we're stronger together. Yeah. None of us have perfect hands, but we all have clean hands moving forward, independent of where we've been in the past. And so for me, I just want to, again, thank you for being here, making yourself available, and never forgetting about Harrisburg. Your parting shots.
Thank you so much once again for having me here. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I have so much respect for you and the work you're doing. And look, Harrisburg's always home. No matter where I'm at, no matter where I end up, it all started in HBG, and Harrisburg has a special place and always will have a special place in my heart. Shout out to everybody in Harrisburg who's doing great things for the community. And look, I'm going to close with this. Education saves lives. I'm a living testament of that because education saved my life. Continue to use education as a tool to do work and do great work for people. Thank you so much once again. I look forward to coming back on here because there's a whole lot more we can talk about.
Look forward to it. You heard from Dr. Shawn Rux, future, after he gets in and out of that mirror daily, council president. We're calling it, speaking into existence. There we go.
All right. So, be well.
No doubt. We appreciate you. And thank you to our viewers. Please continue to give us your feedback, thoughts, ideas in terms of how we can move on with different guests that you want to hear from as we continue to make sure this platform is one where we are unapologetically biased, but making sure we are introducing resources to the needs that we know our communities, not only locally, but at large, are facing. Again, thank you, Dr. Shawn Rux, Harrisburg's own. You've heard us live here at A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly. We'll see you next time.